You've probably never heard of In-Q-Tel, but it's funded by US taxpayers, controlled by the CIA, and helped launch billion-dollar companies like Palantir and Google Earth. And you paid for it. The CIA is known for surveillance, espionage, and covert operations. But in the late 1990s, it quietly added something new to its arsenal, a venture capital firm. In 1999, the CIA founded In-Q-Tel, a private company with a public mission, to identify and invest in emerging technologies that could serve US intelligence interests. It was a radical shift. Instead of building technology in-house, the CIA began investing in startups, long before it became a trend in Silicon Valley. Over the years, In-Q-Tel has funded dozens of tech firms, many of which went on to shape the digital landscape. Companies like Palantir and Keyhole Inc., which later became Google Earth, and others working on biometrics, AI, and satellite imaging. These were not just tools for the CIA. They became platforms used by law enforcement, corporations, and everyday users. And here's the twist. You helped pay for them. In-Q-Tel is funded with taxpayer money, which means the intelligence tools it helped build were partly paid for by the public, without the public ever really knowing. This is where the story begins. Not in a lab, not in a war zone, but at the intersection of intelligence, capital, and technology. In the years after the Cold War, the CIA faced a new kind of problem. It wasn't enemy spies or foreign armies. It was technology, and the fact that the private sector was pulling ahead. While intelligence agencies were still working with legacy systems, Silicon Valley was moving fast, building tools, platforms, and capabilities the government couldn't match. For the first time in decades, the CIA wasn't leading. It was falling behind. That gap was dangerous. Because in modern intelligence, information isn't gathered with binoculars and briefcases. It's harvested through data, networks, and code. The CIA needed access to cutting-edge innovation. But government procurement was slow, bureaucratic, and risk-averse. Startups didn't want to wait years for funding or contracts. So the agency did something unprecedented. It created a venture capital firm. In 1999, In-Q-Tel was born, a private company funded by the US government, designed to move at startup speed. The name was a nod to fiction. Q, the tech genius behind James Bond's gadgets. But this wasn't a movie. This was real money, real surveillance, real power. In-Q-Tel was tasked with a singular mission: find the most promising technologies and bring them inside the intelligence community before anyone else could. In-Q-Tel wasn't just an experiment, it worked. Over the next 2 decades, it quietly built a portfolio that would influence both national security and everyday life. One of its earliest bets was a company called Keyhole Inc., which specialized in satellite imaging and 3D mapping. In 2004, Google acquired Keyhole, and its technology became the foundation of Google Earth, a platform now used by governments, corporations, and millions of individuals around the world. Another was Palantir, a company designed to make sense of massive, messy data sets. Palantir began as a tool for tracking terrorists on the battlefield. Today, it's used for policing, border control, immigration enforcement, and even pandemic response. It's been called one of the most powerful data mining tools in the world. But In-Q-Tel didn't stop there. It backed GitLab, a major platform for software development and code management. It funded D-Wave, a pioneer in quantum computing. It invested in Atlas AI, which uses satellite data to model economic development, originally meant for resource tracking in unstable regions. What all these companies have in common is this: they were built with national security in mind, but now operate deep inside civilian life. From battlefield intelligence to business analytics, the line between military tech and consumer tech has blurred, often without anyone noticing. And at the root of it all is a firm that doesn't answer to shareholders, but to US intelligence. The money behind In-Q-Tel doesn't come from venture capitalists or tech entrepreneurs. It comes from the American public. The funding trail begins in Congress. Lawmakers approve classified budgets for the CIA, which then routes a portion of that money to In-Q-Tel. From there, In-Q-Tel invests it into carefully selected private startups. These startups, in return, provide the CIA with early access to their technologies, often before they're available on the open market. This isn't traditional investing. In-Q-Tel doesn't exist to make a profit or chase IPOs. Its goal is access, influence, control. When a startup takes In-Q-Tel money, it enters into a quiet relationship with the intelligence community, sometimes delivering custom tools for espionage or surveillance, sometimes just granting insight into how their technology works. Eventually, many of these companies go public or get acquired by major tech firms. Their tools, originally developed with national security in mind, end up powering everything from logistics software to policing platforms to social media analytics. Some analysts call this shadow wealth creation, a system where public dollars fund private profits, but the public itself sees little return. It's a closed loop. Taxpayer money fuels innovation, intelligence agencies gain first access, and private investors reap the rewards. In-Q-Tel doesn't measure success in dollars. It measures it in leverage, in how much influence a technology gives U.S. intelligence over global information flows, digital infrastructure, and emerging threats. It's not about chasing the next big app. It's about shaping the terrain of power itself. The modern tech economy didn't evolve in a vacuum. The intelligence community helped shape it. Through In-Q-Tel and similar efforts, U.S. agencies didn't just respond to technological change, they actively guided it. By strategically funding companies at their earliest stages, the CIA and its partners helped define which tools would survive, scale, and integrate into society. This influence was rarely visible. Most people using Google Earth or platforms like Palantir never knew their origins were tied to the intelligence world. But the results are clear. Some of the most powerful technologies in the civilian market today were born with surveillance, data extraction, and national security in mind. The consequence is a blurred boundary between public oversight and private power. In-Q-Tel operates outside the transparency of government contracts. The companies it funds are private, often shielded from FOIA requests or democratic scrutiny. Yet the tools they build shape everything from law enforcement to education to how cities manage public data. This raises questions that have gone largely unanswered. Should the CIA, an agency built for secrecy, be embedded so deeply in the tech sector? Or has Silicon Valley itself become a new arm of American intelligence? The answers aren't obvious, but one thing is clear. In-Q-Tel was never just about funding startups. It was about securing the future before anyone else could.